Gasteley, Director of Government Affairs for the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association. Today, we're going to be talking about the employee retention credit and how to get the money you may be owed. And we're going to be speaking today with Mike Rawson from Odessa Capital. But first, we want to make sure you're getting the most out of your membership. And to help you do that, we'd like to highlight a benefit you may or may not be aware of. Did you know members who qualify get up to 30 to 40% off the everyday price on select products and can receive round-the-clock access to IT help with pro support only from Dell Technologies. You can learn more at OregonRLA.org/Dell. And if you're not a member, you can also go to OregonRLA.org, where you can join and start taking advantage of the numerous cost-saving benefits that we have. So let's just dive right in. I'm pleased to introduce our guest, Mike Rawson from Odessa Capital. Welcome to Boil Down, Mike.
Thank you. Appreciate your time and the opportunity to be here.
Well, there's a lot going on right now. The masks are starting to come off around the country. Spring is here. I know for myself, Little League is starting up. I think people are excited to kind of, get out of the house. Things are, I'm sure, happening in your world as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I live in Arizona, so things have been starting to open up here for quite some time, and really excited for things to get back to the pre-COVID levels they were before. So very, very excited.
Whatever normal is these days, right? Whatever it passes for.
Exactly.
Well, so Mike, we're really excited because we have this new partnership with you. And can you talk a little bit about what that means for our members and how it's going to benefit them?
Absolutely. So I'd like to just kind of do a brief rundown of the program itself. So this particular program, the Employee Retention Credit or Employee Retention Tax Credit, is such an underutilized program that is so beneficial to business owners that were affected through COVID, which is the vast majority of business owners, especially those who are in the hospitality industry, specifically restaurateurs, right? We did some research when this program first came to fruition, and it came out that less than 25% of business owners were taking advantage of this program. Congress set aside $80 billion with a B for this program. So only 25% of business owners taking advantage of that just didn't sound right. So I think that with this particular program and the advantages that they're going to get through this membership is direct access to a company who's experienced in assisting business owners with applying for this program and receiving possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars that's going to help either get their business back to the pre-COVID standards or put them into a better position than they were even before then.
Well, that's great. Let me start at the beginning then and kind of have you go briefly through what is ERCT or ERTC or ERC, and generally then like who qualifies for it. I know that in some of the stories that we've heard, employers think they don't qualify because they either got the PPP or maybe their CPA doesn't know about it. But what exactly is it and who does qualify?
Sure. So this came to fruition as part of the CARES Act in 2020. Something that's a little bit more notable that a lot of people listening will recognize is going to be the PPP program, right? So this was part of the same package. When it first came out, you couldn't do both. So later in 2020, they made a change to the program where you could participate in both. You just couldn't essentially double dip, which means when we take a client through the process of calculating a credit for them, we have to back out the PPP. Because of that literature and the initial paperwork that came out for the CARES Act, a lot of people, especially CPAs, are still under the impression that if you had participated in PPP, you're not eligible for this program. And that's actually the furthest thing away from the truth. So that would be the number one thing that we run into when I talk to business owners or we talk to business owners is they may think they can't participate in the program simply because of that. But as far as the reality around people that are eligible, the only people that we run into that won't be a good fit for this program are going to be those that don't have W-2 employees. That's one of the requirements, that you must have W-2 employees. And then the second part would be those that were considered essential through 2020, right? So when COVID hit and all these mandates on a federal level or state level came into play, the essential businesses were still able to operate. a lot of them thrived as well, right? Because everything was closed. We needed to go to the grocery store. People still had to go get food or supplies, for example. So the vast majority of business owners outside of that are going to be eligible for the program. And essentially, the way that the program works is you have to meet one of two minimum requirements for eligibility. You either had to have been forced to shut down or operate at a reduced capacity. So that could mean that there were limitations on your occupancy, for example. So let's say that the state said you can only operate at 50% capacity within your dining room, or you had to do takeout only, right? Any periods that was imposed on your business that affected your commerce, those are going to be considered eligible periods. And then for any time outside of that, you can still be eligible based off a loss in revenue. So year over year, showing a loss of 50% or more quarter over quarter from 2020 to 2019 will entitle you to be eligible through those periods. And then moving to 2021, because the program starts in 2020, there's the second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter. And then moving into 2021, you also have the first, second, and third quarter that you can be eligible for as well. However, the rules around eligibility for the revenue in 2021 is a little bit more favorable. You only have to show a loss of 20% or more year over year, quarter over quarter to be eligible. And essentially what you can do is get back up to $26,000 per W-2 employee through those eligible periods. That's up to $5,000 through 2020 and up to $7,000 per employee per quarter in 2021.
Wow.
So you can imagine that the amount of money that you can get back from this, and again, this is a grant. Unlike PPP, this doesn't start out as a loan that you have to jump through hoops to get forgiven. This starts forgiven. So it's been a great tool for many business owners to take advantage of this program, whether it be a lifeline to help save, a pillar in the community, a business that's been around for 20 plus years, where you don't just go to get great food, you go to create memories. You go to have a beer with your family members or your best friends every Friday, for example. These are the type of places that rely on this money. We want to keep places open, or businesses, especially in communities like that, open. Small businesses, Main Street is really our specialty and where we care so much about that industry. And this particular program is really put in place to help those business owners.
Mike, that's a lot of information. I appreciate you sharing all that. I know that, again, some of the stories that we've been hearing are, of course, restaurants are starting to find their footing again. They're starting to open up, although they do still have supply chain issues and staff shortages, and they're maybe not open as many hours as they would like to be. I think one of the misperceptions out there amongst the general public, and I know some of the elected officials that I talk to, is that restaurants seem to be doing fine now. And my response, of course, is always, well, it took us 2 years to get here. This is not something we're going to get out of in 2 weeks or 2 months. And although they may appear to be doing well now, that the debt load that a lot of them are carrying is tremendous. And so the money that you're talking about, $26,000 per full-time employee, can go a long way toward helping with some of that debt load and helping to bring back some of those folks that they had to previously lay off.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. I totally agree. And something to consider too, because we talk to so many business owners, they may be back from a revenue standpoint where, okay, we're getting the same amount of people coming in as we did pre-COVID. But something that I always look at is, well, how much money was lost in that period though, right? So you may be back to normal, but maybe you lost $500,000 through that period, maybe $100,000, right? So I think this is a great tool also to make up for those lost revenues, even if you're in a great position. And we love to hear, trust me, when we talk to business owners and they're finally getting back on their feet, things are somewhat getting back to normal. They're seeing people come in. We love those stories. This is also a great tool to make up for some of that lost time as well.
Well, and of course, we got the news this week that it looks like the Restaurant Revitalization Fund is not going to be funded again by Congress. And so I know in Oregon, over half of the folks that applied and were approved didn't get that money, which makes programs like this even that much more critical for them to get back on their feet.
Yeah, so that's absolutely right.
Do you have a couple of stories that you can share? You don't have to get specific with names or anything like that, but a couple of stories maybe about hospitality businesses that successfully got money back using the ERC and working with you?
Yeah, absolutely. There's really a lot of stories, but something that's pretty close to my family personally. My girlfriend's uncle owns an English pub out here in Arizona, and when I talked earlier about pillars of your community or your favorite restaurants, don't just equate to great meals, right? It equates to memories that you have. This was a spot that we went to weekly for the past 6 years, before COVID happened, and to see the struggles, in first person, uh, affect our family essentially, and something that you know 30 plus years were put into this business, and to see it hanging on by a thread, I mean, it was a really eye-opening moment for us. We helped with PPP through that period of time, and then also with the ERC. And he's told us personally, without those funds, he wouldn't be where he's at today. Those doors would be closed. And I think that's a really powerful message. A lot of the time, this money can help people get back to where they were, or maybe somebody had plans in place for 2020. I'm going to open up a second location. And of course, COVID came in and changed that really quickly, right? And now they're able to use these funds to now open that second location. But to have something hit so close to home and see it personally change and keep that business open and allow us to continue to make memories is probably my favorite story. But again, there's so many people that we've worked with where they've gotten the funds and either it kept them afloat or it put them in a position where they felt comfortable to operate again. Many restaurateurs, we joke and say, you work 28 hours a day, 400 days a year, right? And it's very, very stressful to run your own business, to own your own business. And so I think that the stories that we hear where it alleviates that pressure, it allows people to be, with their family and not so stressed out because they're worrying about revenue. They're worrying about whether or not they're going to be able to pay their rent. I think that those stories we hear in abundance, and that really makes us proud of what we're doing and makes us appreciate the opportunity to be able to help small businesses.
Well, that's great. Mike, we're going to take a short break and then we're going to come back and talk a little bit about the IRS and how businesses can help get started on getting back some of that money through the ERC. So we'll be back in just a moment.
At Acuity Insurance, we know the best decisions come from the heart. So let your heart take the lead. We'll protect it with ours. Find business, home, and auto insurance at Acuity.com.
Acuity, a mutual insurance company and other companies. Not all products available in all states.
Welcome back to Boiled Down. Again, I'm your host, Greg Astley, Director of Government Affairs with the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association. We are discussing ERC with Mike Rawson from Odessa Capital. And Mike, before the break, I promised that we would talk a little bit about the IRS. Now, it can be a scary subject for people and not one that generally they want to talk about, but the IRS has a little bit of a backlog, I guess. And how is that going to potentially impact these payments?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, when we first started this program, the turnaround time for the IRS to issue the checks was maybe 3 to 4 months. And it seems as time has gone on and more people have become privy to this particular program, it's taking much longer. So now we're seeing between 6 to 8 months. And now that we're in tax season, of course, that could mean that the checks take longer before they're received. Now, we have heard that they're doing everything that they can to hire people on to try to help with the backlog. But I think that what you can expect if you're applying for the program is that it might be a little bit of time before they're able to get to your paperwork to process it. Our advice, of course, in this particular situation, because we are unfortunately at the hands of the IRS, right, is just to try to get it in as quickly as possible. The sooner that you can get it in, the sooner that you're going to get those checks back. But again, we're at the discretion of the IRS, and sadly, they are extremely backed up, and we think that that's going to just cause a little bit more of a delay in the time frame in which people receive their checks.
So speaking of getting started early, getting it in, how does Odessa Capital fit into this? I mean, how do you guys help operators who want to get this earned credit back? Yeah,
so we're a concierge service, really. We pride ourselves on being very high touch, transparent, and providing knowledge around the program. So what we want to do is we want to speak with you. We want to talk to you, figure out where your eligibility is at, and then walk you through the process of being able to take advantage of this program. And that's going to entail us really laying out very clearly for you how the process works, the expected timeframes, what you're eligible for, and then also calculating and maximizing your credit so that you can take advantage of this particular program. We know that there's money out there that you're entitled to, and we want to find it.
That's great. So what do people need to know to get started?
Well, what they need to know is that you're very likely eligible if you have W-2 employees, if you were affected by any government mandates or shutdowns, or if you had a loss in revenue, that there's going to potentially be thousands of dollars out there that can help your business, and that this is a grant. Those are very, very important parts. I think that, we get asked a lot, well, how much can I get back, right? We've done credits as low as $2,000, and we've done them as high as $5.2 million to give you an idea of the kind of money that people may be entitled to. On average, we're looking at just north of $80,000. So I think that to be able to connect with us, to start the process as far as having the conversation, allowing us to determine your eligibility, and then get started right away, right? Like we said, we're at the hands of the IRS in regards to how much time it's going to take. So we want to be able to accomplish this in a timely manner and ensure that you feel comfortable working with us until we see those checks land in your bank account.
Well, and obviously, because this is something that, is because of the pandemic, it's been, coming up a little more often. Some CPAs may not be fully aware or be able to fully take advantage of it because they haven't specialized in it like Odessa has. So, again, I think folks contacting you to make sure that they've got all the information is going to be really key. What else can we tell them about what they need to know to get started? Is there paperwork that they should have in place before they contact you?
Absolutely. So I'll kind of cover if somebody were to be eligible, which again is going to be the vast majority of business owners. We're going to look at your quarterly 941 tax forms, detailed payroll reports through these eligible periods that we determine. That would be by pay period, by employee. We want to see the hours worked, wages paid, taxes paid. And then we also want to know about any other grants that you may have participated in. For example, PPP or the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, because we can't double dip on other subsidized grants, especially regarding payroll. We have to be able to back those out of the calculations. And then lastly, we want to ensure that we know that you have W-2 employees. A lot of the time people come to us and ask, hey, can we do this for the people that I hire that are 1099s? But again, this is only for the W-2 employees that you have on payroll. Once we have all of that information, at that time, that gives us everything that we need to accurately calculate and again, maximize those credits. Once we are able to do that, what we're going to do is amend those 941s and send those off to the IRS on your behalf. Now, other companies that provide this service, that's essentially where the service stops, sadly. For us, we know that you might not get those checks for 6 to 8 months. And what we discussed earlier, Greg, was that the IRS could take even longer. We're going to continue to follow up with the IRS to provide updates in a timely fashion as often as we can. We want you to know that we haven't forgot about you, right? This is not a situation where we want to work with you only on ERC. And then once you get your checks, that's the end of it. We also provide service for the next 5 years surrounding an audit, right? So the IRS has up to 5 years to audit this particular program. We want to ensure that we can go to bat for you. That's why the eligibility is so important to us and for us to confirm that, again, you're eligible, but also that we are in a position to maximize the credit. You mentioned something about experience. So we've done over 4,000 amended 941s and helped nearly 1,000 clients. We participated within PPP and ERC specifically for over $200 million worth of credits. So we have a very, very experienced team, but more so than our experience, we pride ourselves on our transparency and doing what's right for the businesses that we work with.
Well, the next obvious question has to be then, how do people get in touch with you or somebody else at Odessa so that they can talk to you about what to do next?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's several ways that we can do that. We obviously would love for you to go through Orla to contact us, but you can find us online. And I think that you guys may have some options as far as putting that in front of the people that are listening. Also, you can find us on our website at odessacapital.com. And I'm not sure if you're going to be able to provide any information or links below, but there's also ways that you can contact us directly. We are always happy to help and make time to have the conversation to get this process started.
Well, Mike, we've covered a lot of ground. Is there anything that we haven't talked about yet that you think people ought to know before they start down this path?
You know, I don't think there's anything we haven't covered, but I think the most important part of this is, you know, have a conversation with us about your eligibility. Again, a lot of people are under the impression that they may not be eligible for this program. And we've seen it firsthand that this program has helped businesses stay open. This program has helped businesses execute goals they had before COVID, for example, and really has been a lifeline for a lot of businesses. So if you're a business owner and you're working, as we said earlier, 28 hours a day, 400 days a year, you might be entitled to potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars that can really help your business, invest in your business, invest in your staff, whatever it may be. This is put into place by the government for a reason. They set aside $80 billion. Only 25% of business owners have taken advantage of it. So please reach out, ensure, and find out if you're eligible, because you could potentially be leaving thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars you're entitled to on the table.
Okay, we are going to take another quick break. And when we come back, we'll wrap things up.
At Acuity Insurance, we know the best decisions come from the heart. So let your heart take the lead. We'll protect it with ours. Find business, home, and auto insurance at acuity.com.
Acuity, a mutual insurance company and other companies. Not all products available in all states.
Well, that's great. And I'm sure people are going to reach out to you, because that kind of money is not something that you want to leave behind. So Mike Rawson from Odessa Capital, thank you very much for joining us today. I appreciate the information. Once again, I'm your host, Greg Astley, Director of Government Affairs for the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association. Thanks for listening.